it's a strange responsibility to have this many viewers and listeners. It's very strange, and it's nothing that I prepared for, and it's nothing that I ever anticipated. I am going to do my best in the future to balance things out. I'm going to do my best, but my point of doing this is always just to create interesting conversations and ones that I hope people enjoy. So if I pissed you off, I'm sorry. And if you enjoy the podcast, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to Spotify. Thank you all the supporters, and even thank you to the haters, because it's good to have some haters. It makes you reassess what you're doing and put things into perspective, and I think that's good too. All right. Much love to you all. Thank you to everyone. And I'm going to do my best.
So here we have Joe Rogan. He's about to give us a completely unhinged and delusional rant. And he's going to be completely out of control with his emotions. He's going to be speaking gibberish. He's not going to be making any sense. And he's going to be upset and angry. And he's not going to make any concise points. And he's going to flip the fuck out. That's what Joe Rogan's going to do, right? He's a completely unhinged human being. He peddles disinformation. He creates little Nazi kids, according to Naomi Konst, NATO no Miki. Why don't we listen into how unhinged Joe Rogan is in response to Neil Young pulling his music off of Spotify because Spotify chose Joe Rogan over Neil Young. So let's listen to the unhinged Joe Rogan spew more misinformation at us.
Hello, friends. I wanted to make a video to address some of the controversy that's been going on over the past few days. And first of all, to say thank you to everyone that sent love and support. I truly, truly appreciate it. And it's been very nice to hear from you. I wanted to make this video, first of all, because I think there's a lot of people that have a distorted perception of what I do, maybe based on sound bites or based on headlines of articles that are disparaging. The podcast has been accused of spreading dangerous misinformation, specifically about 2 episodes, a little bit about some other ones, but specifically about 2. One with Dr. Peter McCullough and one with Dr. Robert Malone. Dr. Peter McCullough is a cardiologist, and he is the most published physician in his field in history. Dr. Robert Malone owns 9 patents on the creation of mRNA vaccine technology and is at least partially responsible for the creation of the technology that led to mRNA vaccines. Both these people are very highly credentialed, very intelligent, very accomplished people, and they have an opinion that's different from the mainstream narrative.
This guy is really fucking unhinged, huh? Can you believe that he has a podcast and he talks to people? And not only that, but he talks to people with differing opinions. Can you fucking believe this guy? Can you believe the balls on this fucking guy?
Hear what their opinion is. I had them on, and because of that, those episodes in particular, those episodes were labeled as being dangerous. They had dangerous misinformation in them. The problem I have with the term misinformation, especially today, is that many of the things that we thought of as misinformation just a short while.
So this is super important right here. As unhinged and emotional as he's being, I know, he's going to make some good points here. And let me just make a couple of points before he does. Number 1, censorship doesn't work. Number 2, it's always sold as something to protect you, but meanwhile, it's something to oppress you. Meaning, we need to censor Alex Jones because he's a danger, because he's endangering the lives of Sandy Hook parents, etc., etc., etc. Reality, we need to censor Alex Jones to get used to censorship. Then that way, whenever there's a differing opinion from an establishment narrative on the internet, we can just remove it and we'll have your approval to do so. That's the reality of that. But let's hear Joe Rogan break down why labeling things mis or disinformation maybe is an issue. And then furthermore, the instinct to want to remove things you view as misinformation or silence people you see as peddlers of mis or disinformation is a bad thing, because information, number one, changes over time, right? That's how science works. We're constantly challenging things, creating experiments, and coming up with new ideas. And second, as excuse me. But you know what? I lost my thought there. Let's just get right back into it. Let's listen to the man explain.
Are now accepted as fact. Like, for instance, 8 months ago, if you said, if you get vaccinated, you can still catch COVID and you can still spread COVID, you would be removed from social media. They would ban you from certain platforms. Now, that's accepted as fact. If you said, I don't think cloth masks work, you would be banned from social media. Now, that's openly and repeatedly stated on CNN. If you said, I think it's possible that COVID-19 came from a lab, you'd be banned from many social media platforms. Now, that's on the cover of Newsweek. All of those theories that at one point in time were banned were openly discussed by those two men that I had on my podcast that have been accused of dangerous misinformation.
I just remembered what I was going to say. Sorry to cut Joe off. We need a free flow of information as well. We can't be limiting the flow of information and expect to move forward as a society. We're bringing ourselves back to the dark ages with censorship. Censorship is book burning. It is the same thing. The First Amendment is so important. It's freedom of speech. It's freedom of the press, right? My freedom of speech is also your freedom to hear what I have to say. It's the freedom of being able to listen to differing thoughts and opinions. So if we don't have free flow of information, we will slowly begin to die as a society because we are no longer actually engaging in thoughts and ideas. We are engaging in groupthink, and we are being groomed from the top down on what to say, what to think, and how to act. Look at any weird dystopian movie, read any book or novel touching the subject. It's all very similar.
Know if they're right. I don't know, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist. I'm just a person who sits down and talks to people and has conversations with them. Do I get things wrong? Absolutely, I get things wrong, but I try to correct them. Whenever I get something wrong, I try to correct it because I'm interested in telling the truth. I'm interested in finding out what the truth is. And I'm interested in having interesting conversations with people that have differing opinions. I'm not interested in only talking to people that have one perspective. That's one of the reasons why I had Sanjay Gupta on, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who I respect very much, and I really enjoyed our conversation together. He has a different opinion than those men do. I had Dr. Michael Osterholm on at the very beginning of the pandemic. He is on President Biden's COVID-19 advisory board. I had Dr. Peter Hotez on, who is a vaccine expert. I'm interested in finding out what is correct, and I'm also finding out how people come to these conclusions and what the facts are. Now, because of this controversy, and
Joe Rogan is a comedian / martial artist / host of Fear Factor / cage fighting commentator. He is a guy having a podcast discussion. He is not a source of news and information. He doesn't bill himself as a source of news and information. Spotify doesn't bill him as a source of news and information. He just simply does a podcast. The problem lies in the fact that he gets way more views than any of the mainstream media. Why is that a problem? It's not a problem. It's really not a problem at all. It's a problem for them, though, because number one, they've lost narrative control. That's for the owners. For the workers, They're jealous, right? If you're a journalist with a podcast, or if you're a writer, whatever, you're a cable news host, you're pissed that this guy is kicking your ass in ratings and he's not even trying. He's a threat to them. Money wise, on the worker level, narrative wise, on the owner level. But he's not, in reality, it's not a problem. The problem is the mainstream media has ruined its own credentials and its own credibility. And that's why people will listen to Joe Rogan rather than they'll tune into the mainstream news. I mean, they're not the same thing, but people will go to him for factual information quicker than they will go to the mainstream news, not because they think Joe Rogan is an amazing person. It's because he's having experts on his show, but more so it's because of the failure of the mainstream media. They have blown their credibility. They are the boy who cried wolf. They have cried wolf 10 trillion times, and we have realized that it is all propaganda.
A lot of other things going on behind the scenes with these controversies, but Neil Young has removed his music from the platform of Spotify, and Joni Mitchell and apparently some other people want to as well. I'm very sorry that they feel that way. I most certainly don't want that. I'm a Neil Young fan. I've always been a Neil Young fan. I'll tell you a story at the end of this about that. One of the things that Spotify wants to do that I agree with is that at the beginning of these controversial podcasts, like specifically ones about COVID, is to put a disclaimer and say that you should speak with your physician and that these people and the opinions that they express are contrary to the opinions of the consensus of experts.
What an unhinged fucking animal. Listen to how fucking gracious this guy is. So, on his podcast, that is not a news show, Spotify now wants to, and they did, put on these disclaimers and labels saying, hey, you know, this medical information may not be mainstream. Here's a link, blah, 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 right? He thinks it's a great idea. No argument from him. But he's alt-right, he's irrational, he's a peddler of disinformation, he's a grifter, etc., right?
It's very important. Sure, have that on there. I'm very happy with that. Also, I think if there's anything that I've done that I could do better is have more experts with differing opinions right after I have the controversial ones. I would most certainly be open to doing that. And I would like to talk to some people that have differing opinions on those podcasts in the future. We'll see. You know, I do all the scheduling myself, and I don't always get it right. These podcasts are very strange because they're just conversations. And oftentimes I have no idea what I'm going to talk about until I sit down and talk to people. And that's why some of my ideas are not that prepared or fleshed out. Because
that's also what makes this show great, by the way. Excuse me, I'm not feeling great. Yeah, his thoughts aren't always going to be 100% fleshed out, right? He's having long form interviews, 2-3 hours at a time. They're unscripted and they're free flowing. They're having conversations. It's not a pre-planned, pre-canned interview you're going to see on CNN where there's 3 questions and they're out of there. It makes for a way more honest and open conversation. It does allow for mistakes and silly things to be said and troubles communicating, right? Like not are we always going to be able to portray our ideas in the best way, but it allows for us to get a more in-depth feel for someone, really talk to them for a long time. And then, by the way, he spends a lot of time real-time fact-checking what's going on. Pull that up, Jamie. Google that, Jamie. Jamie is constantly fact-checking what Joe is saying as they're going. It happens quite often on his show. I've seen Joe get corrected in real time. No big deal.
I'm literally having them in real time. But I do my best, and they're just conversations, and I think that's also the appeal of the show. It's one of the things that makes it interesting. I want to thank Spotify for being so supportive during this time, and I'm very sorry that this is happening to them and that they're taking so much heat from it. And so now the Neil Young story.
What an unhinged lunatic, right? So let's skip over his Neil Young story. Let's see. Sorry about that. Let's go back to my friend Joe.
To make sure that I've researched these topics, the controversial ones in particular. Maybe try. So no hard feelings towards Neil Young, and definitely no hard feelings towards Joni. I wanted to make a video to address some of the controversy that's been going on over the past few days. And first of all,
Sorry, I'm the worst.
Right afterwards, I do think that that's important. And I left and I drove home. And as I was driving home, I was singing, "Keep on rocking in a free world." That was my last day on the job. I don't even think I collected my last check. So no hard feelings towards Neil Young, and definitely no hard feelings towards Joni Mitchell. I love her too. I love her music. Chucky's in Love is a great song. I don't know what else I can do differently other than maybe try harder to get people with differing opinions on right afterwards. I do think that that's important, and do my best to make sure that I've researched these topics, the controversial ones in particular, and have all the pertinent facts at hand before I discuss them. Again, I'm not trying to...
This is a guy who is a podcast host, who interviews people he finds interesting for fun. That turned into something really big. It turned into the largest podcast in the world. His show is bigger than any mainstream news segment could ever dream of being. And here he is, completely willing to change the format of his show, do things to appease a group of people who criticize him in bad faith, and he'll do it all with a smile, and he's going to win because he's going to keep his show. He's going to keep talking about the things he wants to talk about. And he's going to keep smiling. And by the way, he's got millions upon millions of dollars while doing it. I one day hope to have things as figured out as Joe Rogan, because this guy's killing it. Here, let's keep listening.
Misinformation. I'm not trying to be controversial. I've never tried to do anything with this podcast other than just talk to people and have interesting conversations. I didn't plan it. I can't believe it's as successful as it is. It was never really an idea that I had. The podcast started off as just fucking around with my friends and having fun and talking. And then when it became popular, other people wanted to come on, and I was like, oh, it'd be cool to talk to that person. Oh, he's interesting. Oh, she's got a cool book out. And then, boom, it's become what it is today, which is like some out-of-control juggernaut that I barely have control of. So my pledge to you is that I will do my best to try to balance out these more controversial viewpoints with other people's perspectives so we can maybe find a better point of view. I don't want to just show the contrary opinion to what the narrative is. I want to show all kinds of opinions so that we can all figure out what's going on, and not just about COVID, about everything.
He really is one of the most gracious guys. I feel like 99.9% of people who have a very strong opinion on Joe Rogan have never even watched one of his shows. I mean, I'm not a huge Joe Rogan fan. I will watch his podcasts whenever someone interesting is on. He interviews a lot of great scientists, authors, politicians, media personalities. The list goes on. Uh, he is humble enough to ask really dumb questions, and he brings them on for a long format, and it just makes for a great show most of the time. I swear to God, most people who hate on this guy have honestly never watched one of his shows. I swear to God.
Health, about fitness, wellness, the state of the world itself. Um, it's a strange responsibility to have this many viewers and listeners. It's very strange, and it's nothing that I prepared for, and it's nothing that I ever anticipated. I am going to do my best in the future to balance things out. I'm going to do my best. But my point of doing this is always just to create interesting conversations and ones that I hope people enjoy. So if I pissed you off, I'm sorry. And if you enjoy the podcast, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to Spotify. Thank you all the supporters. And even thank you to the haters, because it's good to have some haters. It makes you reassess what you're doing and put things into perspective. And I think that's good too. All right. Much love to you all. Thank you to everyone. And I'm going to do my best. Help.
That's an open-minded guy right there. This is someone who the establishment and the mainstream media is going full tilt on slandering right now. And he's smiling and he's being gracious. And it's because he's winning. And it's because he has truth and morality on his side. Whether or not Dr. Robert Malone is correct or not, whatever, right? Let's put that aside. We live in an open, free society, supposedly. We need to be open and free with our conversations. We're literally talking to medical experts about things that they are medical experts in. And the prevailing narrative now is to call for that person's censorship because he has a differing opinion than other people. That's a ridiculous place to be in. It's a very dangerous place. I've been yelling about this since the social media crackdowns in the mid-2010s. I remember one of the first things I noticed and I started to complain about is when Instagram went from chronological feed to a algorithm tailored feed. And it was built as a way to create a more tailored experience for the user, to give them pictures they want to see more than junk, right? If I'm following people, I'm following them because I want to see what they're posting. So that defeats that purpose. But I think the real sinister purpose of changing from a chronological feed to an algorithm-based feed was to muddy up and disallow the ability to post in real time events that are happening around the world, or to organize in real time to create an event or a protest anywhere around the world. If you're on your Instagram and chronologically every second you're getting a new post and you're seeing an event unfold, it's easy to follow. If all of a sudden you open Instagram and it's a mix of things from 4 weeks ago and 2 weeks ago and today and yesterday and blah, it's much harder to follow through. When you have to go to each individual person's timeline and follow that chronologically, it's a lot more work than just opening your main page and seeing everything fall out in real time. In shorter words, I've been complaining about internet censorship. I've been complaining about the call for censorship since the way beginning. It's not going to work. For the people who think it's going to work, it's not going to work. It's going to be used to target you. It's going to be used to target you. If they can censor this guy, they can censor anyone who wants to have an opinion and put it on the internet. He is the most successful person for putting their opinions on the internet. If they can censor this man, they can censor anyone. They already censored a former president of the United States. They already censored fucking Kennedy. They've censored RFK Jr. And it all started with, oh, we got to censor Alex Jones. So please, guys, wake up. Joe Rogan isn't a monster. He isn't a crazy person. He isn't a buffoon either. He's a regular ass guy who has conversations and asks questions. If you don't like his conversations, just don't watch his show. It's that simple. If you think he's putting bad information out there, put some good information out there. Debunk him. Make a video. I'm making a video. You can make a video too. Simple as that.